Let's do it.
Rolls out to the right. 5 seconds to go in the first half. Dante fires deep to the left. Moss caught it at the 11, but now he pitches it to Mo Williams. Touchdown!
You gotta be kidding me!
Welcome back to another episode of the Climbing the Pocket podcast. I am your host, Jason Brown. You can find me on Twitter at BrownJason. And once again, we have the whole crew for you this evening, starting off with QB1. What's going on, JR?
Things going good, man. Just had a great dinner with the family. Went to Texas Roadhouse. I found out they actually do have those in Minnesota. I did not know that.
Why do you think Jimmy Butler's coming here, man? Come on now. He knows what Texas Roadhouse.
He's coming here for Manny's, though.
Hey, I went to Manny's when I was up there.
I never been
last year.
It was delicious, right?
I don't know how they lose a free agent.
Yeah, right?
Sometimes you get a free meal, dog. Sometimes you get a free meal.
It's the potatoes, man. I'm telling you, it's not even just the steak, the potatoes.
Yeah, the mashed potatoes are amazing.
Well, since we just got completely off track here talking about food, we're going to get back to Mr. Miles Gorham. What's going on, Miles?
Just waiting for Prince to take me to Manny's.
Okay. Saxy Prince. What's going on? Is it payday? Looks like you and Miles going out to get some grub.
It's not payday. It's next week. I'll take Miles out. I got a bonus at work, so.
Oh, boy.
Prince
stacking that bread. Which job?
Stacking the bread, have a big dinner, and I'll leave so Miles has to pay right afterwards. So being the fact that it is coming up 4th of July, a lot of people like to, throw down on the grill, do what they got to do, cook out and whatnot. This is what I'm going to say. What is your favorite thing to eat during a barbecue or cookout, whatever you want to call it?
Well, like I always tell y'all, it's not a Southern cookout unless the hot dogs are burnt. If you bring the hot dogs off the grill without them being crispy or having the little black burnt crisp coming off of them, then they're not done. That's like the law of the South here. You have to burn the hot dogs. Otherwise, they're not done. So it's hot dogs.
Flavor.
Well, for me,
hot dogs.
Yeah, hot dogs. I love chicken. I gotta have chicken on 4th of July. Whether it be fried chicken or any kind of chicken, I just need to have chicken. I love the drumsticks.
You're talking about the grill.
You talking about grilling, and you talking about fried chicken.
Man, I'm telling you, you can put chicken anywhere and it'll be good. So throw it on the grill. Try it out, y'all. It'll happen.
Barbecue chicken.
What you say?
Got to be barbecue chicken, right?
Of course, it's barbecue chicken. Come on, man.
The barbecue fried chicken. What about you, Miles?
I'm a straight burger guy. I like burgers and hot dogs. Nothing else. I'm not picky though. So, but I'd say burgers is probably my top.
Okay, all right. Now, I guess if we're talking barbecue, for me, it's a toss up between like ribs and pulled pork.
Oh, you talking barbecue? Yeah, it's got to be ribs.
Yeah, so if we're talking barbecue, ribs or pulled pork. If we just talking about some burgers and dogs, then it's probably a burger for me. Is that good for you, Prince?
It's all good, man.
All right. Before we go any further, because I keep forgetting to do this, had to bump it up on the show notes a little bit. If you are listening right now, to hit pause, slide on over to iTunes, bless us with that 5-star rating. Maybe say something a little bit nice about us, about Prince, getting all these wonderful adventures he takes you on, or the silky smooth stylings of JR, or put something in there about Miles' cornerback skills. Lockdown.
No, don't talk about don't do that. There ain't no cornerback skills.
But really, get in there. Hit us with some of them ratings on iTunes. We need them.
Yo, I was gonna start a GoFundMe app for my student loans, but it probably would be even better if you guys to pay it back instead of doing that. Y'all can just give us a 5-star rating. I appreciate it.
Ain't nobody giving you no money, man.
Ain't nobody giving me no money.
Nah, man. The Nigerians, y'all got a bad rap at this point, bro.
Woo! And that's the thing is so a lot of people don't know I have 8 middle names, but one of my actual middle names is Prince. So that's why the name came out of whatever. So it's really hard for me to sell my name being Prince. It'd be like, oh, what's your ethnicity? Nigerian. It's hard, man. It's hard out here. There are people who have ruined it for me.
They start reaching to make sure they still got their wallet after you tell them that, huh? And just like that, he just dips off. So we just gonna slide in to the next piece, and whenever we find Prince again, or he pays his cable bill, gets the internet up and running again.
Dial up.
Oh,
there
the AOL connection kickback. We got Prince back on the line. Let's slide into
put Nigerian Prince out, y'all. Come on now.
Let's slide into this next little bit of NBA news. So there was a big time trade that just happened. CP3 to Houston kicked off quite a bit of discussion on Twitter in terms of, is CP3 a fit in that system with James Harden, since James Harden put up such great numbers? So been with you and you give us your take on that trade and how you see it working out.
Me personally, I love the trade. A guy like CP3, he's a guy I've, grew up watching, a guy I absolutely adore and love, one of my favorite players in the league. I think his time with the Clippers just ran out, in my opinion. You see all these stories surfacing about him and Doc Rivers, him and Blake Griffin, and him and some other players on the team. I mean, it just makes total sense, and that his time was out. And, a story came out about Doc Rivers not wanting to trade his son for Carmelo Anthony. I just think that was the final straw for him. So, I mean, him with Harden, I love it. Is it going to be a bit of an adjustment? Yes, we talk about both of them being ball dominant, but that's something we've said about other super teams in the past as well. We said about LeBron and Kyrie. We said about Steph and KD. I mean, it took them a while to gel. So why can't we say the same about CP and Harden? I like the trade personally. Yes, Houston gave up a lot, but Daryl Morey came out and said today he's not going to sit back and wait and just let the Warriors' reign just continue over the next 2 to 3 years. He wants to get in that shuffle and in that discussion as a super team as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do from here on out. But overall, I love the trade.
Yinka, why don't you tell us how much you love the trade?
I love it. I think I had the same level of skepticism as I did with the KD Steph Curry kind of meshing together. Not that Steph Curry demands the ball in the same way James Harden does, but I just think that James Harden is, in my opinion, he is a superstar. So having CP3 being able to them to kind of coexist together, I think it'll struggle at first, but I think you will see them, obviously be a playoff team, being able to, put up more points and increase their, assist numbers that they had from the previous season. So, I mean, I'm all for the trade. I think CP we weren't going to see the full-fledged CP3 that we want to see unless he goes to a super team. So I'm glad that, he's starting one.
And before we move on to Miles, what you eating over there? Since, I went to you while you were in mid-bite.
I'm celebrating pre-4th of July, so I had some hot dogs, chips, and some baked beans. So
those hot dogs ain't burnt either, are they?
We ain't got to talk about all that.
All right, Miles, how about you? What you think about the trade?
I mean, it wasn't better than the Timberwolves trade, but, it was a good trade. No, I liked it. I think people are kind of overreacting to the fact that both Harden and Paul like to have the ball in their hands. I mean, it's a long game, so I mean, if they can't coexist, I don't think Houston makes that trade without Harden and CP3 talking to each other about it and like being involved in talks about it and saying, "Oh, can y'all coexist?" I mean, so I'm not really worried about that. It's a long game, long season. All they care about is winning. So I think Harden's okay with giving up the ball a little bit to CP3 if it wins him some more games. I think it's vice versa. I think CP3 is okay with giving the ball up to Harden to win some more games. So I like it. I still think they need to add another piece. I know they're still looking to try to go get Paul George. I don't know how they're going to do it. But I know that's on the horizon for them, what they're trying to do to kind of form their own big three. Personally, right now, though, if you're looking at rosters, what you guys think about whose roster, I guess, starting five, you'd say was better right now, the Timberwolves or Houston, because I know Houston's got CP3, Harden, Chandler Parsons is still there. blanking on who the
No,
rest they have.
No. Chandler Parsons is
he
money in
long
Memphis
gone.
right now.
Yeah, he long gone.
My bad. Forget
He long
what
gone.
I said. I thought he was still there, so I'm way off. So I
Got
don't
a
even
reason.
know.
Ariza.
Yeah, Ariza. So I don't. That'd be like, I guess you'd say they're big three right now. So I'm just curious if you guys think right now. Obviously, the Timberwolves haven't played together, just like Houston hasn't played. Harden and CP3 haven't played together. But whose roster do you like better right now? For me, obviously, I'm taking the Timberwolves. Not even just trying to be biased. I just think the combination of the three is better than the combination of two that Houston has. But I don't know. I want to get your guys' thoughts.
I agree. I'm with you. I like the Timberwolves better. The roster for the Rockets is kind of incomplete right now, and I think their upside is much more greater than Houston's in the long haul, because I don't think CP3 is going to be there for the long term. I think he's going to be one and done there if things don't turn out the way he wants them to turn out. That's just my opinion. But nobody on the Wolves roster right now, I think, has the upside that James Harden does. Cat, I mean, he can get there eventually. And I think the world of Cat. He was my favorite in that draft over Okafor. I said that a million times just because his game is more present day. And I always tell my homeboys down here, you can't even trade Jahlil Okafor for a bag of Doritos right now, just because he's a T-Rex in the NBA. He's just outdated. So, but that's a subject for another day. I went way out track there. But I like the Timberwolves roster. In my opinion, I think they need to get some shooters. I put up a guy like Ben McLemore would be a good fit for them. A guy like Mike Dunleavy would be a good fit, and maybe some veterans that are trying to, chase a ring. Not saying the Timberwolves are gonna get that close, but they have the roster capable of making a run for it. They can't challenge Golden State right now, but maybe in the long haul they can. I don't know. Maybe a guy like Vince Carter signs there. I highly doubt that. I think he'll end up going to the Warriors or something like that, because he'll be chasing the ring, but we'll see some veterans sign to the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I agree with the with both of y'all. I think the Timberwolves right now are a better roster with who they have, and probably got a little bit more flexibility just based on the pieces that they have going on there. But wanted to follow up on something that both JR and Yinka brought up, because both of them used the term super team when they were talking about the moves that Houston is making or has just made with the CP3 trade. And it brought me back to a discussion they were having on NBA radio today about Chris Paul going to the Rockets and whether or not he's what we would consider a superstar. And so that just kind of got me thinking. And JR and I had a little quick conversation about it. But I wanted to get y'all's take, not necessarily just on CP3, but generally speaking, like, how do you guys define superstar? And then I guess once we figure that out, like, is CP3 one? And like, which guys would you consider to be superstars in the NBA? I'll start with you, JR, just because I know that you have a take already lined up.
Yeah, so this is my basic theory on the difference between an NBA superstar and an NBA star. Let's say I'm a Charlotte Hornets fan and the Golden State Warriors are in town. I'm paying money to go see Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. I'm running to the arena to go see them. No matter where I am, what time of day it is, it doesn't matter. If Paul Millsap is in town, I'm not rushing to go see Paul Millsap. So that's my difference between a star and a superstar. If the superstar is on an away team, am I running to the arena to pay my money to go see him? If not, then that guy's not a superstar. So if LeBron is in town, I'm going to see LeBron. And if Paul Millsap is in town, I'm not rushing to see Paul Millsap. So that's my difference between the two.
Yinka, what are your thoughts on that superstar? Like, how do you define it? And then kind of how does that fit in the landscape of the guys who are on the move this offseason in the NBA?
I would agree with JR's take. I know that just anecdotal story is when this last season, me, Reef, Lindsey Young, Eric Thompson, a few others, when we were kind of deciding which Timberwolves game we wanted to go to, and all of us kind of unanimously were just like, well, Golden State Warriors are coming to town. We got to see Steph. We got to see some other guys play. So I think it does have something to do with, like, not only does the superstardom, like, it forces you to want to go to their games, because I think everybody here loves just watching great basketball. I think the other thing that I kind of define it as is, how much they not just dominate the ball, but how much their presence is actually felt on the floor. are they the guy that's probably going to get the last shot? Like guys like Kyrie and LeBron and Steph Curry and KD, Westbrook, like that those guys, when their team is down, they're going to be the ones that are called upon to pull their team out of that hole, and they're expected to. Whereas a star, is expected to contribute and hit when necessary, but the same level of responsibility isn't on those stars versus the superstars that. You heard Stephen A. Smith a couple years ago. LeBron had to get it done, and that's just expected of him because he is a superstar. So that's kind of what I define as superstar versus star.
And what about you, Miles?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with Prince and JR. I think it's all about, do I want to go see that player play? So like, you even kind of go to different sports like football, Vikings Monday Night Football, they're playing the New York Giants. I mean, do I want to go see Odell Beckham Jr. play? You bet I do. So, I mean, he's a superstar. Do I want to go see Julio Jones, David Johnson, some of those guys, some of those, really great players in the league, in any sport, do you want to go pay your money? Because I'm not a big fan of going to games that often, to be honest. And if I'm going to pay my money, it's going to be to go to something that's worth it. So it has to be for, certain few players, and those few players, to me, they're the superstars.
So that term gets kicked around in all leagues a lot, but the NBA especially. Like, how many guys we actually thinking of as like those superstar type guys, the guys that, even like the casual fan would run to spend their money to see play? Like, we have LeBron, we got Steph, we got KD. Right. How many other guys we think are in that category?
Real quick, I was going to ask that because Prince had brought up Kyrie, and I was kind of thinking, like, in my head, like, I don't think I consider him a superstar, because, like, if LeBron James isn't on the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm not rushing to go see the Cleveland Cavaliers play because of Kyrie. So I don't know. That's just kind of my thought. I know he's your guy, Prince, but I don't know if he's not a superstar to me.
He's on the brink. He's a guy like John Wall.
Yeah.
I consider John Wall kind of on that brink too. So definitely similar guys.
That's an interesting point, Miles, because I thought that same thing when Yinka said that is, Kyrie's really good. But I mean, he was like, people weren't really talking about Kyrie the way they're talking about him now before LeBron got there, and also made me think about a guy like Dame Lillard, like, who's an amazing player, and if you watch basketball, you love him, but if you're not a diehard person, you probably have no idea who he is and definitely aren't going to go watch him play as just like a casual fan. He's not going to draw you in to go watch those games. So
yeah, something else I want to add too. With football, I think it's a little different. So I think there's like certain glamour positions in football. So quarterback, running back, receiver. Those are like the big three glamour positions. And then you take a guy like Aaron Donald. Your average fan isn't going to say, oh, man, I'm going to see Aaron Donald play. But he's considered an elite player. So I think those glamour positions are what gravitates fans in football towards a certain player in a certain town. So I was earlier with Odell Beckham, a guy like Antonio Brown, Aaron Rodgers, or somebody like that at those three glamour positions. But you say a guy like, I'm just naming somebody, Darius Slay. Oh, man, I'm not going to go see Darius Slay right away. So I think it just has to be at one of those glamour positions in football.
What about pass rusher, though? Would you kind of put that there like a Von Miller?
No.
He's obviously a superstar, but he's not a guy you're not trying to go see just because of him, like you're saying.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with Miles. I was going to make up that point too. Is just because you have 53 guys on the roster.
I'm just
Kyrie. So I actually looked up. I just looked it up actually, and Kyrie was still fairly young in the league. He came in the league 2011. So I mean, it made sense for me why he wasn't kind of at that superstar status until LeBron came to town, because he still had 2 or 3 years before LeBron actually made his return back. I mean, it's kind of like Steph Curry. I mean, Steph Curry didn't really have the level of, superstardom that he has now back when he, kind of first started. So it really only been the last, 3, 4, 5 years that Steph has kind of turned it on and become this elite, NBA superstar. So that's why I kind of put Kyrie more or less. I mean, I guess I would agree with you guys. He's more of that fringe superstar because, I mean, he has taken over in certain spots where LeBron was not did not show his, I guess, superstardom in certain games.
His issue is he just needs to get out of that shadow of LeBron. So whenever he gets that opportunity, then I think we'll actually see him get that, the chance to become that superstar.
Do you think he should come to Minnesota and then he'd be able to show that superstardom?
I mean, what are we trading? Ricky, Gorgie, and 5 first-round picks for Kyrie?
Yeah, they might consider it.
I give 2 first rounds and both those guys for Kyrie.
Right.
Well, since we got Yink all hyped up on Kyrie, I guess this is kind of the Saxy Prince show part 2, because right now we're talking about Kyrie, and next we're going to talk about Yinka's first love, the running back position. So we're going to transition in, have a little bit of conversation. It show's really all about Yinka, all the things that he really loves there. Fringe superstars and dying positions. So
I appreciate it.
Hey, we're here for you, man. We want to get these things in so that you can talk about the things that you love. And we sent out a tweet a couple days ago, asking folks if you could start a franchise with one of these 4 running backs, so David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, and Jordan Howard, who are you picking and why? So Prince, running backs are your thing. They're your first love. In your opinion, the most important position on the football field. I might have just made that last part up a little bit, but whatever. Can't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Prince, which one of those guys you picking and why?
I'm picking David Johnson. It was for me. It was almost a no-brainer. David Johnson, on and off the field, he's a guy that you can effectively count on. He can affect the game in so many different ways that I think that this is what the league really wants with the running back position, and every single running back to be able to do what David Johnson can do is be such a threat in the obviously the pass game, the run game. And for me, again, like I said, it was no brainer. I thought about Le'Veon Bell, but obviously with the issues with the suspension, and having injuries and whatnot, he's been a little bit inconsistent. And I think what we need from our running backs is more of the consistency. Some stats I could throw out as far as David Johnson, obviously 4.6 yards per attempt. He's as far as his career wise, he's easily averaging 4.4 yards per attempt. I mean, this is a guy that not only does that, but he also, as far as yards per reception, he's also averaging 11.5. So I mean, not only is this guy killing you in the run game, he's also killing you in the pass game, and he is commanding a lion's share as far as touches per game for the current Cardinals. So, I mean, as far as a guy who's able to affect the game in multiple phases, that's why I went with David Johnson.
Yeah, definitely not going to get any argument from me on that one. I guess, JR, what are your thoughts? Who are you going with?
I agree. I'm going with David Johnson. And just piggybacking off what Yinka said, I think it's a tight race between him and Le'Veon Bell. But the thing that separates the two is the off-the-field situations. We all know Le'Veon Bell's situation, and, he's already served a 3-game suspension last season, and he's 1 strike away from essentially getting banned for a whole year. So, I mean, you can't really trust a guy like that, especially going to the negotiating table. And with David Johnson, he's clean as a whistle as far as off the field, and he's a great player on the field as well. He's your modern day running back. He can catch out of the backfield, run between the tackles, run on the perimeter. And I mean, if he wanted to transition to being a full-time receiver, I think he would be capable of doing that. I think that's how special he is. So it's a no-brainer. It's David Johnson for me.
So I feel like Miles is on the same track with David Johnson. So before I go to Miles, I just wanted to ask you a follow-up, JR. Let's say Le'Veon Bell was clean off the field. Does that change it for you at all? Because I know you're a big Lev Bell fan. Does that switch it up for you? If he had no off-the-field issues, would that change it for you, or are you still David Johnson?
I'm still David Johnson because, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I've watched every single down of Le'Veon Bell over his career, because I haven't. But most of his catches have come out of the backfield. David Johnson, he's been in sets out wide. He's been in the slot. He's been all over the field as well as the backfield. So he's that multidimensional threat as a receiver, not just the guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield or in the screen game. So I think just that added dimension of being able to utilize him all over the field, that kind of differentiates the two for me as well. So it would still be David Johnson.
Okay, and Miles, are we going for a clean sweep, David Johnson across the board?
We are. I do want to defend Le'Veon Bell just a little bit. I'm not going to defend the off the field because you can't defend that. But I do think, from what I've seen with Bell is they've moved him to the slot, and I think Bruce Arians uses David Johnson the exact same way Pittsburgh uses Le'Veon Bell, but obviously a little bit more in the receiving game with Johnson than Bell. But I've seen Bell line up in the slot and move around and do all that against linebackers and safeties. But where the biggest thing I'm taking David Johnson over Bell, basically because they're pretty overall comparable as players, is I'm taking Johnson because he's got a little bit more speed too, a little more explosion. He can break it, and he can beat you downfield. He can get downfield and be that home run threat that Bell really isn't. Bell's special, but he's not going to beat you for a 50+ yard touchdown. He'll get you he's a 20-20 guy, and then when you get inside the 20, I mean, he's going to pound the rock in. But he's not a home run threat. So that's the only difference to me for David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell. But that's why I'm taking David Johnson over him.
Yeah, those are all fair points. While you were talking there, I was actually looking it up. It looks like David Johnson had 874 yards receiving last year. I mean, Diggs only had 30 yards more receiving than David Johnson last season. That's crazy.
Yeah, he was their offense. I mean, it was undeniable. They wouldn't do much without him. I mean, obviously they got Fitz, but I don't really think that offense does much without Johnson.
Yep, and I think the other thing that's important to note, of the guys that we threw out there, he's the guy, I guess you could say, whose skill set you can be most certain of, because his circumstances are the worst, like in terms of the quality of his run blocking offensive line. I mean, Arizona was not that good last year, and Carson Palmer looked washed last year. Fitz is old, Floyd was gone, and David Johnson was able to carry that whole thing, even though they knew it was coming to him every single time, and he was still able to be a dominant player. So since we agree across the board, David Johnson is the man. He's number one. He is possibly in a tier to himself in terms of the running backs in the league. How we ranking out the next couple guys? So Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, Jordan Howard. How we ranking those guys out? And I guess maybe a little quick scouting report or your thoughts on each of them, starting with you, JR.
I go David Johnson 1, Lev Bell 2, Ezekiel Elliott 3, Jordan Howard 4. And that's not a knock against the last two. I think both are really exceptional players, but I just want to see them do it again. And I'm not a big guy that pays attention to rookie seasons, but what Zeke did was really incredible. And what Jordan Howard did was even better, in my opinion, considering the circumstances and the injuries that they faced up front. Kyle Long, he's a constant injury, but he's a good player as well. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field due to his injuries. And they picked up Josh Sitton over from the Packers, who was a fantastic pickup, who had a good year last year. And, Vikings fans wanted Cody Whitehair really bad, but he ended up in Chicago, and he had a good year for him last year. But they have a really solid interior, and their tackle situation isn't great right now. So what Jordan Howard really did was amazing. Even though we beat him up in Week 17, he still had a phenomenal game. I think he had over 100 yards in the Week 17 game as well. So, and the thing about Ezekiel Elliott, he's a good player, but like I said, I want to see him do it again. And I really want somebody to look up the stats of how many yards he has before he's touched. Because every run, or I won't say every run, a lot of runs that he has, it just seems like he gets to the first level very cleanly. And he really doesn't have to make decisions until he gets to the second and third level. And I'm not saying he's a product or a sole product of the Dallas offensive line, but he's reaping the benefits of being in that system and around that great offensive front a lot too. So I think that would be an interesting stat for somebody to look up, or if I'm able to find it, I'll definitely share it.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I will see if I can find that after we record today. Miles, Yinka, what do you guys think? You guys agreeing with how JR has those guys ranked? And what are your thoughts on Zeke and Jordan Howard specifically?
Yeah, I would agree with it. That's what I have my ranking as. I mean, I love what Zeke brings to the table. I love how multidimensional he is. And I mean, would I love to see Zeke? I mean, obviously I would love to see Zeke in a place like Arizona. So he could, we could actually see the full-fledged, the skill sets Is it sheer dominance, or is it obviously having players up front that are going to help assist you as well as scheme? But again, I also love what Jordan Howard has, who arguably had one of the worst situations you could possibly have. You know, so I would agree with JR on his evaluation.
Miles, anything else from you?
Yeah, same with me. I think obviously for me, what Zeke didn't surprise me with anything he did, just because I mean he translated pretty easily to the NFL, because his game's was pretty transcendent from college. I mean, he knew he was going to run well. He knew he was going to block well, catch. So I knew he'd perform well, kind of no matter where he went. He just ended up going to the perfect situation. I am curious to see how he handles it with. I mean, they kept the best core of that offensive line, with Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, and David or Nick Martin. But I'm curious to see how the left guard situation, the right tackle situation goes with Lyle Collins, and they got, I think, Jonathan Cooper coming in. Curious to see how he does this year. I still think he'll perform well, but I'm excited about that. And then Jordan Howard, he arguably has the best offensive line, when healthy, interior offensive line in the league, with Whitehair sitting in Kyle Long. So I think he's sitting to be able to have another breakout year. But I would agree with the order everybody had with the top four of these four, from these four, I should say.
That makes a lot of sense. And I guess one question I had for you guys, because, Zeke, he came in and obviously his situation was great. So he had, I looked at the last 10 years, most yards from scrimmage of any rookie running back drafted in the first two rounds. And so obviously, in this kind of era that we're in now, people kind of jump to put him. He's, greatest, running back of all time. He's a top tier guy. And so I wanted to get a question for you guys in terms of, evaluation as prospects and players. Like, how far apart or how wide is the gap between a Todd Gurley and an Ezekiel Elliott? Because when Gurley came out, I mean, he was considered, an all-world type of player. He's just in a really, really bad situation. So for you guys, like, how far, when you're just rating the talent of the player, how wide a gap is it that you see between those two guys, if there is one at all?
I don't think there's a big gap at all, in my opinion. At running back, I think it's all about fit. And if there's one position, well, it's two biggest positions that reap the benefits most from fit, and that's quarterback, obviously, and running back. And we saw it last year, even on the same team with the Rams. We saw how bad the fit was with Gurley. And I think that changing system, going to McVay's system, will help Gurley a lot, and I think it's going to help Goff a lot as well. So I think Todd Gurley is a great player, but I mean, we've seen multiple gifs and clips online of him not even having a chance. Just guys and free hitters just hitting him before he can even react. And that's exactly how the entire season was for him last year. And you can just tell that wore on him last year. But I think Todd Gurley is a great player.
Miles, Yinka, what do you guys think? How wide is the gap between a Todd Gurley and an Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, I'm with JR. I don't think the gap's very big. Todd Gurley is one of those transcendent type running backs. As a prospect, he was, elite, huge, big dude, could run fast. He's kind of in that David Johnson category in terms of measurables. I don't know the exact measurables off the top of my head, but based off the way they play, I mean, Gurley obviously doesn't have the receiving skills or anything, but he's big, he's fast, physical. He could take the pounding. He could run from the gun, but he's better suited, I think, in that power scheme. I'm curious to see how they do. I mean, they added Andrew Whitworth, so I think that run game should help significantly. And so I expect a bounce back year for him. And like JR said, I don't think the gap's very big. I would take Elliott over Gurley, though.
And Prince, what about you?
I would agree with what Miles and JR are saying. I actually really liked Gurley more than I liked Ezekiel Elliott coming out. Obviously, with the AP situation that was happening a few years back, I actually wanted the Vikings to strongly look into taking Todd Gurley, because I didn't know if AP was going to be back. I kind of just assumed he wasn't, so I thought that he would be a good fit coming to Minnesota and having being multidimensional, having the skill set that he has. He probably would have struggled just as much, against this offensive line this year. But I don't think the gap is very big. For me, I like Gurley a little bit more than I like Ezekiel Elliott, even though I feel like they're still really top shelf players.
That makes a lot of sense. And you guys are all, as we're talking about these top guys, kind of talked about the skill set and the traits they bring to the table, that well-rounded game. And I know we've had, kind of little conversations about this at different times. And for myself, when I'm looking at running backs, I know that I need to get over my bias, because I really tend to favor those, the shifty guys, the make you miss type of running back. Barry Sanders versus APs, the conversation that we have very often. But wanted to get your opinion in terms of, for you, what's the most important trait that you're looking for when you're evaluating a running back? And so we'll start with you, Prince. For you, what is the most important trait that you're looking at? What do you love to see when you're watching a running back or evaluating a running back?
Yeah, I think it has. I think it had a lot to do with why I loved AP so much. Yards after contact. Watching, it's just expected of a running back to be able to make something out of nothing. Having a poor offensive line, maybe not having the greatest quarterback behind you. I think there's always this expectations that running back can just make something happen, regardless of whatever situation that they're in. So I mean, as far as what I'm looking at, yards after contact, can he, a play that's only designed to go to, 2 or 3 yards, can he turn into 7 or 8? Can he get into that second level? Can he, can he continue to break tackles, not just with shiftiness, but obviously with power and being able to have the vision to be able to, extend it, a few more yards than what the play was designed for. So I'm definitely looking at yards after contact.
Yeah, a lot of great points by Prince. I think for me, it's a combination of vision and patience, because I think, talking about a guy like Adrian Peterson, I think, if that man really had a little bit more patience throughout earlier in his career, I think he left a lot of yards on the field. Personally, I think he'd be a lot higher on that list of all-time leading rushers if he hadn't. A lot of those breakaway home run hitting runs definitely helped, but I think he left a lot of the yards on the field because he wasn't patient. He had pretty good vision, but sometimes he was just looking to hit that home run every time instead of kind of letting things develop. So I'm looking for that combination of vision and patience, because I think, you see now guys like Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson, they excel at those things. Their vision, their balance, and their patience is phenomenal. They're letting things develop in front of them before they find that crease and hit that 7-8 yard run. They don't have to hit the 15, 20, 25, 30 yard run every single time. They know what it takes to kind of get their team down the field. And sometimes I think that's where I struggle with Adrian Peterson the most, is just he left some of the stuff on the field. So yeah, for me, it'd be that combination of vision and patience.
Before we jump to JR, because Miles said some things about Prince's boy right there. Prince, you got anything to retort, or can we move on to JR's evaluation?
I would agree. I would definitely agree that AP did leave some yards, on the field and whatnot, and that's what kind of contributed to such a low yards per attempt that he had over his career. But I think that also speaks. It also speaks to some of the parts that he did really do well in his career, and being able to hit the bigger plays, because he was always looking for the big play, and that obviously team wise maybe not necessarily the greatest, or more individually not always the greatest, but the fact that he definitely was often in a situation where he had to make something out of nothing. I mean, Minnesota would not be anywhere, like, people would not talk about Minnesota if it wasn't for Adrian Peterson. And I think that goes back into not just the plays that he left on the field, but the plays that you did see on the field is running over William Gay, just splitting the defense between St. Louis. I mean, completely, and being past 30 and still able to outrun a few guys. When he had that big run in Oakland. So I mean, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with Miles. I think he is right as far as he did leave some plays on the field. But I think we definitely saw, like I said, as far as what I look for, AP was often able to create more yards because of his run style. There are pros and cons with that, but
yeah, but I just wanted to clarify one thing you said there. So you said that his yards per carry weren't necessarily the greatest. I mean, they were still very good for his career, 4.9, but his success rate wasn't as good as we might want to see. So it was boom bust. So it might have been
talking like his career is over.
Yeah, 1 yard loss, 1 yard loss, 1 yard loss, 80-yard touchdown. The average would come out to something that we'd like to see, but the success rate might not necessarily be what you want for your team.
Yeah, that's what I was more trying to.
And Miles, as far as we're concerned, his career is over. He's no longer Minnesota Vikings. He's dead to us now. So,
yeah. I again, though, I would not be surprised if that man had a good season in New Orleans. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. That's tough. I mean, and we'll at some point in this offseason get into a preview of the opponents we're going to face, and I would have been a little bit more worried because New Orleans is actually one of the more slept on offensive lines in the league. When I was looking at the last few years of offensive lines, New Orleans was consistently in that top 5 of offensive lines for run blocking that people never really talk about. So if they had all their pieces, I'd agree with you, but they lost Max Unger already. Teron Armstead is out for months with an injury. So I just don't know if they'll be able to bounce back and be the same dominant run blocking unit that they were before. But
there'd be a lot different. They lost Jari Evans too. They let him walk.
Yeah, so it's gonna be tough for him. But JR, what about you? What are your thoughts on kind of the traits that you're looking for when you're evaluating a running back?
Bravo, Miles. You hear me clapping? I agree with you 110%. 110%. I can teach you pass protection. I can teach you how to run out of the shotgun or from the I formation. I can teach you a lot of other things. I can't teach you vision. That's
Hold
stuff
on.
to my.
You can teach somebody all those things?
Absolutely.
How come the Vikings didn't hire you, man?
I knew that was coming. I'm telling you, the team just let Adrian do Adrian because he was doing so many things. Like they didn't early in his career, they just let that man do his thing because they weren't worried about the pass blocking and all that. But I'm not going to get into it. Go ahead, JR.
You can teach a guy all those things. I can't teach you vision. That's up to your mom and dad, genetics. Either you have it or you don't. That's something. It's just like pocket presence with a quarterback. Either a guy has it or he doesn't. Vision is something you can't teach a guy. We've seen all the funny pictures of Trent Richardson and how he missed the hole huge just because he didn't have vision. I mean, you can't teach it. That's the biggest thing I look for in a running back. A good running back sees things before it happens. And we've seen that with Adrian Peterson. We see that with Lev Bell. Once he sees a hole, he hits it and he accelerates. You see it with David Johnson. You see it with Ezekiel Elliott. So vision is a big thing, or the biggest thing I look for in a running back, simply because you can't teach it. And if a guy does have it, you can build all those other things around him to make him a good or elite running back, in my opinion.
First, I apologize, Yinka. That shot at Adrian Peterson was uncalled for and unnecessary. We'll transition away from me taking shots at your mans.
But can we get back to that real quick? Just because
we're going to take more shots at AP? Okay, let's go back. Let's go back.
It's not AP. I truly believe the team let him down by just letting him go by. And I know it falls on Adrian too that he's got to get better at that stuff too. But the team literally just let him do his thing and they didn't.
I don't think he wanted to do it. I don't think he wanted to do it.
I'm sure he didn't either. But I do think when they lost Eric Bieniemy, the old running backs coach, that really hurt Adrian Peterson's development because he was not afraid to tell Adrian what's up. He wasn't afraid to make him do the things he didn't want to do. And then the new regime came in and they kind of just let Adrian Peterson just do Adrian Peterson things.
Bieniemy had him when he was young too.
Yeah, right. Well, right. That's what I'm saying. Bieniemy wasn't afraid of that superstar mentality. He was like, I don't care who you are. I'm gonna make you do what you don't want to do.
Right.
And then the new regime kind of just let Adrian skate by and do his thing. So I just wanted to clear that up quick.
I completely agree, Miles. I mean, I think having Leslie Frazier as his head coach as well hurt him because, I mean, you hear Adrian talk about how much he liked Leslie Frazier, and he almost considered not wanting to be a part of the Vikings after they fired him. But, I mean, I think part of the reason why Adrian liked Leslie so much is because he got to do what he wanted to. He got to be in the dot all the time. He had the fullback in front of him. He got to be in command of what was happening with the Vikings more so than what I wanted him to do. I wanted him to focus on the things that, where the league was kind of shifting towards, So I agree 100%. That's usually my defense for AP is, he did something. Yeah, he didn't do everything he could to be the best player he could be. Yeah, he got into shape. He was the best shape of his life every single offseason and all that stuff. But, he wasn't really working on the issues of pass protection, wasn't working on the learning the game of football to, the level of Marshall Faulk, so that's on him. But at the same time, at the end of the day, these coaches, they can tell the players what they need to do, what they need to work on, force them to be put in those situations to succeed. And AP was seeing success doing what he's always done until much later in his career where he wasn't seeing those successes as much anymore. So Yeah, I agree with you, Miles.
Well, all right then. I won't apologize for beating up on AP. Miles, you should apologize when we're done with the podcast. But let's move on from beating up on AP to another issue that's near and dear to the Saxy Prince's heart, and that's running backs getting paid less money on average than kickers. How do we
Yeah,
feel
let's
about
talk
this?
about that, Jason.
Yeah, we talked
Let's talk
about
about that.
We talked about the QB pay scale on the last episode. So I want to get y'all's takes on that, since the running back position has been devalued so much now that the average kicker in the NFL makes more money than the average running back. What do you guys think about that? Yinka, sounds like you got some stuff to say.
Yeah, that's messed up, y'all. I was just gonna throw out some stats, some things that I was looking at earlier today and whatnot. So let's just look at purely at like top 5 rushing teams in terms of like total yards. So since 2012, they're a team that's been top 5 in total rushing yards has gone to the Super Bowl. So I mean, obviously, you look at. I mean, you are still looking at the yards per attempt, and a lot of these teams have very high yards per attempt. And you're getting represented every single year by a top 5 rushing attack. Now, I was just strictly isolating, the rushing stats and whatnot. So obviously, they're contributing factors as far as defenses and passing and whatnot. But it was surprising for me to find that so consistently a top flight running back team was going to the Super Bowl.
Whoa! See, because you're doing a very it's well done there. With a little debate tactic of, well, the team had a lot of running yards, and then it's just kind of trying to slide into that they're a top flight running back team, and those are different points that you're making there. Did all these teams have an elite level running back, or did they just have good running games?
And were you about to mention the Carolina Panthers from 2015? Because that was an elite running team, but they didn't have an elite running back. They had Cam Newton.
And
no, absolutely, but I mean,
and the only team in the playoffs last year that had a first-round running back was the Dallas Cowboys.
I didn't make any claims as far as first-round running backs or anything. I'm just saying, y'all need to put more respect on the name of these teams that do put the rushing game as a level of importance as some of the other teams that do passing. However, I will say this. I'll throw out another stat at you guys because I actually found this really interesting. What I did see is since 2011, I think was only one team had like a completely. I have no idea how these people made. I do know how I made the Super Bowl, but the New York Giants in 2011 season, they had a completely awful rushing attack. They were 32nd. What? I think
Brandon
so.
Jacobs probably leading the team. Yeah.
Yeah, they were 32nd in total rushing yards, and they were 32nd in yards per attempt. Like, this was an awful rushing team. And I did look at their yards per attempt passing wise, and I think they were about 8.8 or 8.3, one of those two. So obviously Eli Manning was balling out. For the stretch run for the win. But
hey, real quick,
for me,
hold on. I googled the New York Giants 2011 roster, and tell me why Herschel Walker popped up. He came up. He's in like the list of the group on that roster. Like, what? I don't know.
So,
keep going.
All in all, I think the level of respect some of these running backs should be getting. I'm not necessarily advocating for every running back to get paid, just like much like I'm not advocating for every quarterback to get paid, because I think that's ridiculous. I think the top ones should get paid, and then you should go and find a guy who can help you win games. But as far as running back, I'm the same exact way. I think guys like David Johnson should get paid. Guys like Ezekiel Elliott should get paid. If Todd Gurley can, start being the player that we thought he was going to be, he should get paid. But obviously, he will have to show a little bit more.
So I feel like you just brought up an outstanding point with the last two players you listed right there, though. So Ezekiel Elliott came in, by the account of most people, perfect situation, great run blocking offensive line. And so he had a great season. Todd Gurley, on the other hand, in terms of, if you're lining them up as prospects, probably as good, if not better, probably a more well-rounded prospect because he got more targets in the passing game at Georgia than Ezekiel Elliott did in the passing game at Ohio State. But he's in a bad situation because they don't have a good run blocking offensive line. And so his performance isn't as strong. Isn't that in and of itself kind of an argument for the circumstances and the surroundings being more important than the individual talent? Like, wouldn't that be an argument for pay your offensive line and then just plug in a talented guy from the draft for cheap, run him into the ground, and then draft his replacement and do it again?
I mean, yeah, you definitely could make that. You definitely could make that argument. But I would also think that a team who does have a good circumstances, who maybe feels like, hey, if we had maybe a top shelf running back, that might be a guy that I'd be more willing to pay to slide into, our team. So yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily advocating for just the team that they're on to pay them, but I'm also advocating for a team who might look at like, hey, maybe we do need, we need a little bit more explosion in our running game. Let's go pay this back. That will help bring it to us. I mean, the Vikings. Do I think that they're going to be a top 10 rushing game? I don't. But I think that they can bring themselves up to roughly around league average because they went out and used the resources to go get a guy like Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray, and you still have Jet in the backfield, so you improved your running game just by a few moves. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that maybe Dallas doesn't pay Ezekiel Elliott, but I think another team, down the line might look at Ezekiel like, hey, yeah, I paid to have him in my backfield, even if I do just have an average offensive line.
Okay. Miles, JR, what are your thoughts on kind of where salaries are going for the running back position? You guys think it makes sense? You think they're appropriately priced, or do you think that there'll be a market correction and running backs might start getting a little bit more money down the road here?
I do think with the new age of running backs in the, David Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, some of those guys, they're going to reset the market back to where I don't think that's going to take it quite to what it was with, the Adrian Peterson contracts and all that, but I think they'll get that average back up just because, there are some, and, Jordan Howard, if he continues to move up and continue to have a, good second, third season, and Todd Gurley gets back to form, I think some of those guys will kind of correct that that average and bring it back up. But yeah, I guess I don't see an issue with it just because you look at the way teams like I'm gonna put Minnesota in a really good category for what they did. Moving on from Adrian Peterson. I mean, you pay Latavius Murray. I don't think they're not paying him a lot of money. I don't like the idea of him having a surgery the second he signs his contract, but you get your veteran for cheap, and then you have your two young guys that you drafted, so you're not paying them a lot of money at all. So I like that strategy because between the three, they're going to hit on somebody at some point, in my opinion. So I kind of like that strategy of kind of the three-headed monster and seeing who hits best, and it's cheap too. So
okay, so I don't know if y'all knew this. Latavius Murray is the 11th highest paid running back in the NFL.
And he's not even getting paid that much.
$5 million a year.
Well, that's what the escalators go to, though, right?
No, that's what he's getting this year.
Oh, okay.
I believe that's what he's getting this year. I haven't looked at the details of his contract.
Signing bonus, I think, including signing bonus and everything. Yeah.
And I wish the listeners could see Jason's face right now because it's hilarious. Latavius Murray is the 11th highest paid running back in the NFL right now. And I knew it wasn't going to be cheap when they signed him. That's why I was kind of skeptical of the signing. I mean, I was fine with the signing, but I didn't really like the price because I think he's basically Matt Asiata, an upgraded Matt Asiata. He's going to be a third and long or third and short type of back, goal line type of back. I think that's what his purpose is here, and I just wasn't willing to pay the price tag of what they paid for Latavius Murray. I think they could have drafted a guy to take that role, like a Samaje P. Ryan or somebody like that, if they wanted to double dip at running back in the draft. So let's say they never even touched Latavius Murray in free agency. Maybe they could have double dipped at running back and paired Jet with two other guys, or even re-sign Matt Asiata if that's what they wanted to do. I know Minnesota hates Matt Asiata. I didn't dislike Matt Asiata. He was fine for his role as an RB3, in my opinion. He was, $800,000 last year? I mean, would you rather pay that for Matt Asiata or pay $5 million for a guy like Latavius Murray, who is essentially going to be in the same role? I don't know what their numbers are as far as touchdowns, but I don't know, guys. Latavius Murray being the 11th highest paid running back in the NFL, that's a bit of a stretch for me.
Yeah.
I think where I don't hate it is the fact that they're not paying the other two guys a lot of money, and the fact that Murray's a faster overall player than Asiata, obviously, and younger. 1 year, so paying it if he comes in. I worry because of the injury now, but when they first signed him, I was, if he can come in and do what they expect him to do, and we don't know anymore at this point if he's going to be the lead dog. I doubt it, because of the injury. But if he could have come in and be that lead dog for a little while and kind of get Dalvin Cook up to speed and let Jet do his thing, it might have been worth it. Now it makes it a little harder because of the injury to make that worth it. But I do like the idea that they can get out after 1 year. So I kind of hope they do because that money just keeps going up. So, I don't expect him to be in Minnesota long.
Sorry, just quick to piggyback off Miles. I think he brings up a good point as far as the dollar allocation to what the actual position group. I think that was the biggest issue we had with AP is because he was taking up, 12, 13, 14 million dollars every single year, just the one guy, not the entire position group. When I'm looking at it, as a whole, that's my biggest issue with obviously the quarterback situation is, the percentage of, dollars that are allocated to them sometimes is a lot higher than I would like it to be, despite, the level of play that some of these guys are able to bring to their teams. So that's kind of how I look at it as far as, paying running backs, how much do each player bring to that position group? Because, if you look at Atlanta's situation, they have two guys in their backfield that, they might let one walk because, both of them both contribute at a fairly high level. So,
all right. Rapid fire. We're going to start with JR first. Rank the backfields in the NFC North.
Ooh. I would say, obviously, I think you have to put Jordan Howard at the top. I think he's a good player. I think the rest of them are a bit of an unknown, in my opinion. We can't really rank the Vikings because McKinnon is the only proven commodity in Minnesota right now. So
rapid fire, man. You got to make a decision. Let's go.
All right, so let's go Chicago, Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit.
Okay, Miles, you're up. Rapid fire.
I'm going Minnesota. I think the upside's there. I think Murray's shown something. He's scored 12 touchdowns before. So I'm going Minnesota, Chicago, Green Bay, Detroit.
And you, Prince, where you at with it?
I had like Miles. I think Minnesota's upside is actually really high. So I have Minnesota, Chicago. I went Detroit and then Green Bay.
Okay.
Because I know that as far as Detroit, I think they've beefed up their offensive line a little bit more than Green Bay has over this last offseason, I believe. So I think that you might see a little bit more explosion from them up front.
I just don't consider Theo Riddick a running back. So I guess that's the reason. That's the reason I didn't.
Anthony Barr definitely does.
Oh,
Ty Montgomery is.
He's built like a running back.
He's built like a running back. Yeah.
Just a question.
I hate that they let him keep 88. I don't even want to get into it, but
Andy Benoit.
All right. Oh man. So, everybody here seems to have the Vikings as either the number 1 or number 2 team in the NFC North, and a lot of that has to do with the optimism that we have about Dalvin kind of jumping in, hitting the ground running. And so, I wanted to get your opinions. When you look at the projection right now on the fantasy football site for ESPN, their projection has Dalvin down for 190 rushes, 827 yards on the ground, 6 touchdowns on the ground, 30 receptions, 250 in the air, and 1 touchdown. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think it's high, low, fair? Like, where are you guys seeing Dalvin come in terms of his performance this year? And we'll start with JR since he's got the hot take that the Dalvin starting week 1 and running away with the job.
Dalvin Cook will rush for 1,000 yards in 2017. I'm putting it out there.
Whew.
I believe in it. I think the kid is special. I think he's going to take the job in preseason. I think he's going to be the guy in week 1, and I think he's going to take it, and I think he's going to run with it. They beefed up the offensive line to be a good run-blocking team. They signed Reef. They signed Remmers. That's what they specialize in. The clips we've seen from the Vikings website, he's looked great. Latavius Murray is coming off ankle surgery. McKinnon and Cook have been in the system all spring. They've adjusted. They've looked good. Latavius Murray is still rehabbing. Training camp is the target date. We don't know. He might have a setback. He might be ahead of schedule. We don't know. But I think Cook is going to take the job, and I think he's going to run with it.
That's some high praise there,
right.
JR. I didn't even think that. I didn't think Dalvin Cook would have 1,000 yards. I think he might. I thought 800. If they are really truly sharing by the end of the year, I think 800 is a good, or 850 is a good. Good point to kind of go with. Especially because I see him contributing a little bit more in the passing game as well. I don't envision him being 1,000-yard back.
What about scrimmage yards?
So yeah,
You think he can be 1,000 from scrimmage?
Yeah, I definitely see him being 1,000 from scrimmage. I think we are going to see Jerick McKinnon take again another step forward and be utilized way more than he was in the previous season. But yeah, it's hard for me to say any of these running backs will be 1,000-yard yard backs. It really is. How
about you, Miles? Where you at with it?
Before I get to my hot take, I think I tweeted it a while back, but before I get to my hot take, I think if you're properly using all three running backs, Dalvin Cook's the lead guy, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's 1,000-yard rusher. Jerick McKinnon should be more the scat back, using that scat role. The receiving back, third down guy, and then Latavius Murray should be your short yardage and pass protector. So I think if you use them all correctly in the way they should. I think Dalvin Cook could easily get 1,000 yards. And I think he's, people haven't seen him on film. They don't have a lot of, they don't have any pro film on him at all. So I think that kind of helps him as a rookie. And then, but I do agree. I think the closest thing for the projection was pretty spot on with kind of what to expect from Dalvin Cook his rookie year. I do think he'll come in and take over that role pretty early, kind of like what JR said. And then my hot take, I think we're going to have 2,000-yard receivers and 1,000-yard rusher on offense.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I know the rushing wasn't there last year, but we almost had 2,000-yard receivers. And, Thielen and Diggs, those guys could potentially do it. And then, if Cook comes to fruition and has 1,000 yards, I mean, you never know.
Oh, so we win in a bunch of games then.
It's just a hot take for me. I mean,
hot take.
I think those three are the main three pieces to the offense, in my opinion, anyways. They're the most important in terms of scoring and output. I know Kyle Rudolph will kind of affect that too.
I was about to say, you might be right in terms of scoring, but Sam really, really, really likes Kyle Rudolph. And
he's starting to like my guy Treadwell too. So, I mean, so I'm not getting into it. We're not getting into it. Don't, Jason. Don't do it. But that was just a quick hot take. It can't be hot if it's not, bold. So why not?
Vikings winning the Super Bowl next year too.
Quick hot take. Over under Treadwell touchdowns 3.
Over.
Ooh, I like it.
I can see it.
I like it.
I can see it. Wait. That was touchdowns or catches?
Touchdowns.
Oh.
over under Diggs touchdowns 3.
More.
Definitely over.
I guess he said 4 once, but I mean,
definitely over. I mean,
you say definitely. You say definitely like this man's scoring a lot of touchdowns.
I'm saying definitely because I'm going to try all off season to convince myself that Pat Shurmur can be a better version of himself.
When you got the skill players to do it, why not?
See, you keep telling me not to say anything about Treadwell, but you keep teeing me up.
I know.
We got a wide receiver episode coming up soon, so I'll just save them all until we get there.
No, there will be no Treadwell slander. We're done with the Treadwell slander because Hoodie ain't here. So
that is a promise I will not make. But I will try to keep my criticisms 100% on the field, things that should be fair for us to talk about. if you haven't been able to tell by now, listeners, we are stalling a little bit because, as is the custom of one Sexy Prince, we've lost him yet again. He continues to dial in to the podcast on what we believe is an AOL level connection. And so he is gone. And because running backs are his thing, we did want to give him the final word, but it does not look like that is going to be possible.
Hey, resend him the invite, Jason.
Resend him the invite. Man. All right, so we're going to resend Prince the invite. And while we're doing that, JR, tell the people a little bit about the ongoing series you got going on here. 32 for 32. Who's next? What should we be looking for? Do we got anything going on over the weekend? Like, what's the schedule going to look like for these upcoming things you got for 32 and 32?
Yeah, so it's only a weekday thing just because I like to let people relax and enjoy their weekends on Saturday and Sunday. But what I'm doing is a 32 and 32 series, just highlighting 2018 draft prospects and just giving some ideas and things that I see in a scouting report and a little summer grade that I have on them, and giving an NFL comparison as well. Sam Darnold, USC quarterback, Derwin James, Florida State safety, and Connor Williams, the left tackle from Texas. The next guy tomorrow will be edge rusher Arden Key from LSU, the guy that I really like.
All right. And at some point, I hope this weekend I will get to put some work in on my article explaining to all y'all why Bucky Hodges is the key to the Vikings having a truly explosive offense with an actual matchup nightmare, Miles, one that can actually run and jump and occasionally catch, but run and jump. So, yeah, Prince, welcome back. Perfect timing.
My bad, y'all.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a podcast unless something like this happened. Need you to upgrade from AOL. But you got any projects upcoming that you want to tell the people about? Also, would you like to talk to us while you're not on mute?
Sorry, I apologize for that. Yes, some of the stats that I threw out at you guys are kind of like a running back deep dive. Some of the trends that I've been seeing as far as good rushing teams and whatnot. So that's what I'm working on, as well as also just looking at our Vikings opponents and some of their ways that we can attack them and whatnot. So.
Well, all right then. Miles continues to count down to the happiest day of his life. So, yeah.
Almost 2 weeks.
Almost. Tick, tock, tick. Well, gentlemen.
Mexico.
Oh, yes. Check the internet. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining me here for yet another episode. Listeners, I know we told you once already, but before we go, again, support the pod. Hit us up on iTunes. Bless us with that 5-star review. Write some nice stuff about us. And, yeah, we will be back relatively soon. We might take a little break. There's some holidays and things upcoming. But, we'll be back sooner rather than later. And, Nicodemus, you going to plug the show?
Oh, yeah, go watch episode 4. The episodes are just getting more and more hilarious. Episode 5 should be coming out on Monday, as always. If you ever need a link, just let me know. Shoot me, inbox me, DM me, whatever the case is. And yeah, I actually have another project kind of in the works right now. I'm kind of keeping it hush-hush for a little bit until it's everything's all good. But yeah, man.
Well, all right. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Thanks for coming on. Y'all have a good one.